Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Fans Podcast, where the game belongs to all of us. No experts, no suits, just fans talking sports the way we live it every day. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Fans Podcast. We are in full swing here. Week 12 has just ended. We'll be looking at the Week 13's updated power rankings of mine. As the week has just concluded, all the games in the books. We'll also look at the playoff push. So updated playoff seedings and where teams kind of lie and what kind of games we have going on this week. If you don't know, we have 3 Thanksgiving games on Thursday. We have the Black Friday game on Friday. And we have our usual Sunday slate as well as Monday Night Football. So 4 different days of football. 2 of those days just island games. The Friday game is an island game, and the Monday night game is an island game as usual. So we'll get right into it. This is something new we'll be starting here just to kind of open the show here. I do want to highlight, great performances as they happen throughout the year. As you all know, if you don't know, very new to this content kind of creation, but been a fan of the league, been a fan of this game for a long time, and just trying to put something I love, kind of out there, talk about it, and, just kind of grow some things. But nonetheless, getting into this, Jahmyr Gibbs, awesome game this particular weekend. He's a dual threat guy, arguably the best offensive weapon for a team that's out there. 15 carries, 219 yards with 2 touchdowns on the ground. He also added 11 catches on 12 targets for 54 yards and a receiving touchdown. He had the 69-yard touchdown in overtime that ultimately gave the Lions the lead, and they were able to ultimately win the game off that score as the defense was able to hold the New York Giants offense. So really, really good player. Probably if you play fantasy football, he was at the top of most people's drafts. He's a guy that is very explosive. He's a household name at this point. So I'm pretty sure most of you guys know who he is, but definitely wanted to highlight this young man as he had an awesome game this weekend. And let's see what he continues to do for this team moving forward. So jumping right over to the power rankings. The number 1 team this week, number 1 team in the NFL, in my opinion, the Los Angeles Rams at 1. Denver Broncos were on bye this week at number 2. The Patriots at 3. Eagles drop a couple. I had the Eagles up top for a long time if you followed this channel at all throughout the year. But lost to a divisional opponent on the road. Dropped them down a couple of spots. I still think they're one of the better teams in the league, but not able to kind of keep them up there at the top just because the offense is struggling. The defense shows some kinks in the armor a little bit last week, so dropped them down a bit. The Seahawks right under them at 5, and the Colts losing on the road at Kansas City. Tough game. Probably a game that they really should have been able to close them out, but this is a team that, kind of first year with a lot of these pieces. They've had a lot of success. They're going to hit some bumps in the road. Long season. Let's see if this team can continue to get better or, will they kind of start coming back down to earth. So I think about 6 weeks left to kind of see what that team does. Number 7, I've kind of been bumping this team up just because they've continued to get the job done. The San Francisco 49ers at 7 for me. The Green Bay Packers, Detroit Lions at 8 and 9 respectively. The Bills at 10, Ravens at 11, Chiefs at 12, the Bears at 13, Texans 14, Buccaneers 15, Chargers 16, with the Cowboys, Steelers, and Panthers, just under that. I'm not going to get into any of these other teams that are lower than even, the teams at the bottom in terms of the Cowboys, Steelers, and Panthers. And really, I probably would have ranked those Steelers. I probably would have ranked those Cowboys in that particular order. Cowboys, Steelers, Panthers. So 17, 18, 19. When I look at this list, if you don't know, I am a Chicago Bears fan. And some people may say I have them too low. In my opinion, I do agree the Bears, they haven't had a ton of games yet against teams that are, higher than them on this particular rankings list. But the teams that are higher than them, i.e., the Ravens, who don't have as good of a record, they lost to the Ravens with the backup quarterback. So I give the Ravens a nine. So that's an example of something of why do I have the Bears here, even though they're 8-3. I think we're a ascending football team, and we'll get into that a little bit more when we break down the playoff picture. But also the Lions here at number 9. We lost to Detroit early, pretty bad in the season. So I have them up. We play Green Bay coming up here. So the Bears can move up 4 or 5 spots here, if not higher, with a win over the Philadelphia Eagles is coming Friday and the Green Bay Packers the following week. So the Chicago Bears have a lot of opportunity here coming up. So it's just more of kind of a wait and see type thing. I do think we're really, a pretty good team. I don't think we're a great team. So that's kind of where my thinking in terms of having that, because I feel like as a Bears fans, people would ask me, where do you have them ranked? This does not mean I don't believe in my team. I'm just trying to be unbiased and realistic when I do these type of things. I don't want to be a super fanboy, because I am. I'm a really big fan, but at the same time, I think we have room to grow. If we were the best team in the NFL, I would have us at the top. Sidebar, it is not NFL. I'm an Ohio State fan. Ohio State's been the number 1 team all year. When I do college football content, I don't even really talk about them a lot because, they've just been so dominant this year, and there's just no reason to talk about them until like this starting week. But back to the Bears, I think this is just one of those things when you have a big game coming up and you have to prepare for that, right? So let me know what you guys think in terms of these power rankings in the comments. I do want this to be an interactive show. Who's your team? Are you a Bears fan? Do you think I have them too low? What teams do you feel they should be over? I feel like I did a pretty good job with this list. And let me know what you guys are thinking. We'll hop over into the AFC playoff picture here because I don't want to ramble on that too much, because we can dive into a lot more of that here when we look at the playoff picture. So we'll start with the AFC here first. So division leaders, if you don't know, Patriots at 10-2 in the AFC East, Broncos at 9-2 in the AFC West, Colts at 8-3 in the AFC South, and the Ravens for the first time, I think, all year at the top of it, maybe except the first. No, because they were 0. Yeah, probably for the first time all year, the Ravens are in first place in the AFC North. Now, they do have 2 head-to-heads coming up with the Steelers and, I believe, Cincinnati the rest of the year. So, even though Pittsburgh is more down in the hunt, this race is really tight, right? They have the same identical record, but the conference record may be a little bit better for Baltimore. Looking at the wild card spots, the Chargers at 7-4, so 2 games behind. 2 games in both the win and loss column behind the Broncos in the AFC West. Jaguars are just a game now behind the Colts in the AFC South, and the Texans there too, just 2 games behind. So I believe the Colts and the Texans face head-to-head this weekend. That will be a monster matchup in terms of that AFC South playoff picture. If the red-hot Houston Texans are able to go and win that football game, the AFC South, in my opinion, will be kind of wide open. I believe that will be the first meeting between them, and the Colts and the Jaguars have to also play. So some of these divisional races will be coming down to week 18. It's kind of hard to see right now just based on where the schedules are at, but that's an example of one that probably will be coming down to the wire. We already talked a little bit about the AFC North 6-5. The Ravens and the Steelers have a game coming up here pretty soon. The Ravens are one of the games that will be on Thanksgiving night against the Bengals. Joe Burrow looks to be back. We'll highlight that game a little bit at the end. The Chiefs. So the Chiefs right now, if the playoffs started, the Chiefs would not be in, and they have to keep winning, and they're going to need some help from some other teams especially if they get another loss. So I know they have the Texans coming up too, so that head-to-head will be massive for both teams as they are not in control of their division at this current moment. So that's all we'll look at. The Jaguars, I mentioned them. The Bills losing to the Texans last week. So the Bills are 2 games behind the Patriots in the loss column, but 3 behind in the win column. So they got some work to do there in terms if they want to catch New England. But even if they beat them, there's still only 1 game. They would have to make up some other games. And again, I think the Jaguars still have 2 games head-to-head against the Colts. So AFC South is wide open. Looking at the NFC side here. So the Rams at 9-2. I have them at number 1 in my power rankings. I think they're the best team that I've seen really right now. In terms of where they stand in the NFL, they look like the best team to me. The Eagles are at 8-3, leading the NFC East. My Chicago Bears at 8-3, leading the NFC North. Buccaneers at 6-5, leading the NFC South. So back to kind of the power rankings discussion I was kind of trying to have. I didn't want to ramble too much there, but I think I started to a little bit. So the Bears are in control of the NFC North. You play who's on your schedule, and this is where they are to this point in the season through 11 games. They have some head-to-head matchups coming up here with the Green Bay Packers, who are down in the wild card spot. So looking at the wild cards, 8-3, the Seattle Seahawks, they are a part of the NFC West. Just a game behind the Rams, but just lost to the Rams 2 weeks ago. So the Rams have a head-to-head there if they would tie. They do have one more game, if I'm not mistaken, before the year ends. Also, same division, the San Francisco 49ers at 8-4. So they have split their season series 1-1, but the Rams are still up on them. 2 games in the loss column, only 1 game in the win column. The Green Bay Packers, so going to the NFC North, that tie may affect them pretty big going down the stretch here, depending on what some of these head-to-heads look like. They already beat Detroit once, but Detroit has a 4th loss already. They do play the Bears twice. The first game will be that first week of December at Lambeau Field, and they have a game in between that and then that following week. So 2 games within a 3-week span. That second game will be at Chicago. And the NFC South at 6-5, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Panthers had an opportunity there to take number 1, the top spot in the NFC South. That just shows me they're just kind of really not there yet. They're a much improved football team, but maybe not just really ready to take that spot and be a team that wins their division. Tampa Bay, a ton of injuries. I still like the team, but I just don't think that's a team that, they don't scare me. I think Baker is pretty banged up. They have a ton of injuries. And, their defense, they got Vita Vea in there that kind of claws the middle, make it difficult for you to run the football. But in terms of edge rushers, just getting pressure, that's going to be more from like exotic blitzes and stuff. And, just the way they send kind of some different kind of pressures, but just with 4. They're not a team that I'm really worried about in terms of, just some kind of vaunted defense. They're not the Houston Texans defensive line or the Cleveland Browns or anything like that. So Tampa Bay at 6-5. I'm expecting them to win that division. They do have 2 head-to-heads coming up against the Panthers. And I mean, if the Panthers can win both of those, I would imagine that they just take this division, but they will have to win a couple of other games too, I believe, to secure that. So the Lions at 7-4 is very interesting. So the NFC, the way I'm looking at these wild cards and outside of the NFC South, you're probably going to have to win 11 games to get in if you don't win your division, right? So Tampa Bay will not have to win 11 games to get to the postseason. Everybody else looking like you're probably going to need at least 11. With the Seahawks, the way they're playing, the way the 49ers are playing, this is why I was highlighting that game for the Bears in week 17 against the 49ers um, as a really big game, just as big as some of these divisional games, just because the way the NFC playoff picture is shaping out. So the reason is you want that head-to-head. If you have the same record, which, we have the same amount of wins, they just have one more loss than us at this current moment. They have not had their bye week yet, which should be coming up here within the next week or two for the 49ers. So if you tie them, you have the head-to-head win over them, so you will get the playoff spot. Um, so a lot to play for going down the stretch here, but even looking down at the Cowboys at 5-5-1, in theory, it doesn't look like they really have a shot there. But if they get some help, for example, if the Bears take care of the Eagles this week, that would give them a fourth loss. And I don't know who else the Eagles have on their schedule, but I would imagine they have at least one more team that probably could compete with them and get a victory over them, and that will put them at 5 losses. Now, the difference is Dallas has that tie, and it's not a win or a loss, so they can't get as many wins as Philly if they both have just 5 losses on the year, just because that game for Dallas is just kind of just there, just the same as the Packers. The Bears are number one because we have 8 wins. They only have 7, even though we both played 11 games. So these head-to-heads down the line, and really just, being in, I don't even know how I want to say this. You want to be in games, right? You want to be in these games. You want to give yourself an opportunity to lay. People talk about the Bears and how they have kind of won these games, right? But it doesn't matter. If you win the game, you win the game. It's going to be a W in the win column. You lose, it's going to be an L. Down the line, yeah, you may remember certain things about certain games for certain years, but ultimately, what you'll remember most is that my team had 10, 11 wins that year, or my team had 10, 11 losses, right? So you get in these games, you give yourself an opportunity late. One of the things that I like about the Bears, despite who they're playing, is they're taking the ball away and they're not giving it away. That's a recipe for winning. They're one of the top rushing teams in the league, and there are other teams that do that as well, but they're doing those particular things at one of the better rates in the league. So NFC playoff picture is going to be wild, like I said, and 10, 11 wins. I'm saying it now. I'm going to keep repeating it probably the next couple of weeks. 10, 11 wins to get in. The Seahawks did not get in with 10 wins last year. You're probably going to need 11 wins to get in the same this year. NFC has been very good at the top. So may the best teams, best top 7 is what's getting in. Top 7, let's see who got enough to get there. So in terms of the Thanksgiving Day games, I talked about this a little bit earlier. We'll just kind of highlight some of these games, the matchups that are going on. So first, in the early window, we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Detroit Lions. This is the NFC North rivalry game. Detroit is a 2.5-point favorite, 48.5-point total. So earlier in the year, Green Bay won that Week 1 matchup at Lambeau Field and kind of just dominated Detroit. I do not expect that here in terms of, kind of a repeat. I think Detroit in this particular game will be kind of looking to get some revenge. They know the standings. They know what they need to do. Being a game behind in the loss column of both the Green Bay and the Bears, and already having playing a head-to-head against Green Bay already, they'll want to get this win. So I don't have a pick in this game. I don't know who I would like to win, how it will help the Bears one way or the other. Um, but definitely a game that's going to have some big implications on the NFC North race going down the stretch here. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to Dallas to face the Cowboys. 3.5 point total for the Chiefs. 3.5 point favorite, excuse me, for the Chiefs. 52.5 point total, so pretty hefty total there. Both of these teams can't lose again and expect that they're going to make it to the playoffs, especially Dallas. Kansas City may have a little bit more wiggle room. I think that will put them at 6 losses, so they will probably have to get to 10 to get in the AFC. I think 10 will get you in the AFC, but ultimately the Chiefs want to just kind of try to find a rhythm and get something going here late. So big time spot, 2 big time organizations. Obviously the Chiefs been one of the more dominant teams in the league the last, I don't know, seems like decade now. In Dallas, it's Dallas. Jerry Jones, has his team everywhere in the spotlight. They're always, the Lions and the Cowboys are always in these games and have been for a long time. So should be a pretty good game. Again, the total 52.5 looks pretty good. And we'll move to that last game, the Bengals at the Ravens. Looks like Joe Burrow is returning for this game. T. Higgins will be out, though, so he did get hurt in that Sunday game. So he will not be active, but Ja'Marr Chase should be back after his 1-game suspension. This is an AFC North clash, and absolutely Bengals cannot lose again and get in the playoffs. I don't even know if they could get in if they went out, just because their season has been so bad to this point. Obviously, Baltimore with the slow start, they've kind of gotten it back on track. And Vegas has them as a 7.5 point favorite at home, 52.5 total, so another healthy total there. And ultimately, I like the Ravens in this game. I think with the ground game that they have, although it hasn't been as good as it has in the past, I think Derrick Henry. I think this is a game where this Ravens offense kind of gets back on track against a defense that has given it up to everybody. So Joe Burrow will be back. I kind of expect maybe a little bit of a shootout in this game. A really good game to end the day on a holiday with, your family and everybody kind of sitting around. I think the early game, obviously it's the lowest total. I think it could be a little bit more of a dud. I mean, it could shoot out as well, but I think if one of the games would go under a little bit more, it would be that one. Excuse me. But that night game, I'm kind of thinking that Ravens offense will kind of get it back going against that Bengals defense, and I think Joe Burrow will just kind of come out slinging it to Chase and, whoever else he has out there to be able to throw the ball to. So that's all I got for this particular episode. Interact with the video, like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys don't like. I have pretty tough skin, so I'm still trying to get better at this. More ideas, better ideas, but just kind of going through some things and, seeing what happens. So we will be getting into some college football later this week. We will be getting into more of the games going on this weekend. I will be breaking down the Bears and Eagles games separately, as that game is Friday. So look out for all that and more on the channel the rest of the week. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.